Scott Lincicome is an adjunct fellow at the Cato Institute and an international trade attorney. I want to play for you a little bit of sound from yesterday's Sunday shows. This is Wilbur Ross and Peter Navarro, the president's advisors who want him to press forward with tariffs. Listen to what they had to say.
What we're talking about in terms of the economy is $9 billion of tariffs. That's all. That's a fraction of 1% of the whole economy.
If you look at a 10% tariff on aluminum, six-pack of beer or Coke, that's $1.50. Thank you for that compliment.
In billions of dollars, correct?
On a $19 trillion economy. Look, here.
But you agree it's a billions of dollars increase in cost.
What I agree is that the downstream effects of steel and aluminum tariffs are insignificant, and the mission here is to preserve our steel and aluminum industries for national security and economic security.
Scott, how do you respond to the idea that these tariffs would only have a minor or trivial impact on the rest of the economy?
Well, they seem to ignore that this $9 billion number is really only the direct tariff tax amount. And they ignore the fact that what the tariffs would actually do is turn the United States into an island of high-priced steel and aluminum. Now, that's going to reverberate throughout the economy. In fact, a brand new analysis that was just released showed that it would destroy about 146,000 jobs on net. So you're also then ignoring the potential for global retaliation from our trading partners. And then, finally, I got to say that they seem to really disregard the consumer effects here. This is the same administration that a few weeks ago was touting $75 a month in a person's paycheck, and now they're just shrugging their shoulders at a new consumer tax that might increase the cost of a car by $200 or increase food costs and so forth. I mean, that really, it seems to be a big contradiction there.
So then the president today made some additional comments about this from the Oval Office when he was meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, and he was shouted a question about the tariffs. And he talked about the possibility of, if he can get a better deal with NAFTA, then maybe he won't need to do this. But I thought the whole point of doing the tariffs was to punish China, which is not a part of NAFTA. So I'm confused on that.
Well, you should be confused. I mean, first of all, it really undermines the idea that this is about national security if we're using it as negotiating leverage in NAFTA negotiations, particularly with some of our closest allies. But, yeah, you note that China isn't a NAFTA party. And not only that, Chinese exports of steel are the 11th largest. The major steelworks exporters to the United States are Canada and the European Union and Japan and others. And it really doesn't make much sense from a national security perspective to be punishing our allies in an attempt to somehow get at China.
The other thing I was curious about is that our trading partners also have domestic politics, right? So the president is, I think, trying to be tough on behalf of the American worker that work in those industries. But in Mexico or Canada or in Germany or even in China, those leaders also have to sound tough. So I'm trying to figure out how this all ends up if this goes forward.
Yeah, the president really seems to misunderstand or that other countries' political leaders have very similar domestic political pressures that he has and that we have here in the United States. And they can't be seen as caving to President Trump when he makes these types of threats. So they have to respond, whether they like to or not. There's an inevitable reaction. And then, you talk about the NAFTA negotiations again. I mean, how can those negotiators now just simply shrug their shoulders and agree to whatever deal maybe they were close to getting if they come off looking like they just caved to the president's threats?
Well, the president said he'd also just heard that now NAFTA, that the parties down there working in Mexico City do want to have more talks, which I suppose is good. And we appreciate your insights. Scott Lincicome, thank you.